Ananthamurthy Sharmanaha Tasya Paranekate Bhutayena Sarvaprajita Uttranti Godana Silamatradana Karnamantra Padanani Tasya Mృతశరీరే Sarvaprajittam Gatte Sarvaprajittam Kartrum Kigalo Bhutva Mama Adhikara Sampadasya Bhavanto Pravanto Adhikara Sampadasto Savyena.
That's the process of actually praying to the Almighty and asking Him of His forgiveness for all possible sins, omissions, commissions, everything that a mortal would have done when he was alive, to condone those mistakes and allow for the passage of the soul. These are very solemn words as we speak. The son usually is the one who prays on behalf of the departed soul, either the mother or the father, and he begs the Almighty for forgiveness. Any kind of mistake that the father or mother could have done in their mortal role when they were on planet Earth, he begs for the divine forgiveness so that the soul's movement becomes much more easier. And that is what is underway at this point of time as we speak.
Well, there you can see all the politicians here sitting together. Former Chief Minister Yediyurappa, Chief Minister Siddaramaiah along with his cabinet colleagues, sitting along with the wife of UR Ananthamurthy and his daughter. His son is present over here, taking part in the Vedic rituals. It should go on for another 1 hour or so before his mortal remains are placed on the funeral pyre. Now, Arun, it's also very nice to see that in spite of his dislike for when he was alive, the BJP and any of the Sangh Parivar, all the leaders have actually come over here to pay their last respects.
Nolan, there are two ways of looking at it. One way is to say that you completely avoid the man, but then remember, UR Ananthamurthy will not be available for you to talk to. He's gone forever. And the more important thing is, he was a writer, and as a writer, the least thing that a democracy can do is to allow for flowering of ideas. If he held on to certain ideals which he reflected through his works of art, you have to respect it. That brings a different perspective to life, not the one that goes on the beaten track. So you have to admire the fact that writers are there. They kindle your inner self, they kindle your inner thoughts, they make you think out of the box, they make you look at life from a different perspective. And the least that a democracy like India can do, in fact, we are not a sham democracy like many of the other nations are in the world, but definitely as far as India is concerned, in a place where there is democracy, there is bound to be difference of opinion. That needs to be encouraged. While that is to be encouraged, if you have an opposition to it, if you have a different point of view, then there must be much more civilized ways of putting across your viewpoint, not indulging in vandalism or behavior which is anything but antisocial, so to speak. Nolan, and that's the reason why, despite the fact that there was a bit of a war of words between URA and the Saffron Party, it is so gracious enough on the part of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to actually tweet his condolences about the passing away of UR Ananthamurthy. Definitely remember, he is not an ordinary person, he was not an ordinary writer, he was a person who was a Gyanpith Award winner, and you need to respect him for the fact that he actually brought in a lot of glory, he brought in a lot of fame as far as the field of Kannada literature is concerned. His path-breaking work was, of course, Samskara, which was a very highly acclaimed but yet controversial work of art, if one could use that phrase. Remember, it took pot shots at the system in which the Brahminical style of living took place. It brought about a different perspective of life. It gave a different perspective of life. It tried to point out the fact that there were issues endemic to that system of living, and that is what got exposed as far as that particular work of art is concerned. Nolan, you have to appreciate the fact that he was a powerful thinker. He was, after all, a Gyanpith Award winner, and nobody gets a Gyanpith Award unless and until he is acknowledged for the kind of work that he has delivered, and he has done extremely great work as far as the field of Kannada literature is concerned. The irony being the fact that while he was a professor of English, he was extremely strong as far as Kannada literature is concerned. He left behind significant works of art in Kannada, though the fact remains that he was a professor of English.
But however, he'll always be known for his most famous novel, Samskara.
That's right, Nolan. In fact, that's the one which also raked in a lot of controversy because of the fact that, as I said a little bit earlier, it looked at a style of living, looked at a way of living, and mocked it. In fact, Samskara was in a way semi-autobiographical in the sense that it actually dwelt on his early life. Remember, he was born in Tirthahalli Taluk, a very important bastion for Hindu and Hindu culture, and the very fact that he was brought up under the guidance of his grandfather, the fact that he lived in Agrahara. Agrahara is a term which is used to denote a Brahmin colony. Basically, when you say Agrahara, that means a congregation of Brahmin families live in a particular place. So that had certain rules and regulations. And remember, we are not talking of post-independent India. He was born in 1932. At that point of time, you still had the menace of casteism ruling several parts of India. In fact, it was a very important dogma or principle as far as the Indian social life was concerned. So the Agrahara had its own rules and regulations. You could only live in Agrahara if you had the first criteria, that is, you are a Brahmin. A person who was not belonging to that community would not get access to live in Agrahara, although things have changed at this point of time as we speak. But the very fact that he was living in an Agrahara and he was brought up in an Agrahara made him reflect on it. That's the reason why he used the word Samskara. Samskara in Kannada stands for tradition, and the very word that he used in his novel or his acclaimed literary work, Samskara, goes on to point fingers at this concept of Agrahara, this kind of living. So you could see a streak of rebellion as far as URA's work is concerned. It is definitely one of the path-breaking works that Ananthamurthy has left behind. It has much more than the fact that it was a work which condemned or questioned the style of living. It has a much more important social connotation to it. What is the use of certain institutions which don't keep pace with time, where equality of human beings is much more important than anything else? Those are the social questions that were raised in that particular work. Unfortunately enough, it hit the limelight for the controversy associated with the fact, but the very fact that it had a lot of social aspects also dwelling on it was perhaps not very aggressively pursued or not aggressively exposed.
Well, we now slip into a short break, but on the other side we will continue to track all these developments and much more. Politicians, MPs, MLAs from various other parties, and also about 1,500 to 2,000 people present.
That's the ritualistic bathing of the body. Remember, this is the one which happens, this is perhaps the last bath, as you could call it. This happens, and then you set off the process through which you finally, it culminates in the funeral pyre being lit on him. The body will now be shifted, Nolan, after the rituals are completed. The body will be shifted. Remember, there is a pyre which has been built there using wooden logs and sandalwood logs, etc. That is the one on which the body will be placed and the funeral pyre actually lit. Now the ceremonial purification or the bath has been done, and now you will see the body being slowly but steadily being shifted from this location to the place where you have those sandalwood logs placed.
In fact, he will be leaving behind a large number of works, because I was reading, he's written about 5 novels, 1 play, 8 short story collections, 3 collections of poetry, and 8 more of essays. This work's been translated into Indian and also European languages.
That's right, Nolan. In fact, remember, he was also an academician of great stature. Remember, he did his masters from Mysore University, then went to Birmingham, had a stint abroad. He was in fact a Commonwealth scholarship winner, and then came back, was with the Bangalore University for some time. Then he went, remember, he was the Vice Chancellor of the MG University in neighboring Kottayam. So the issue with U.R. Ananthamurthy is he's more perhaps well known for his literary work than for his record as being an educationalist. In fact, that is by no that's by no yardstick a mean achievement, because he's done yeoman amount of work. Remember, URA has another connect as far as the people of Karnataka are concerned, in the sense he was a part of the committee. In fact, he was the head of the committee which was set up in 2006-2007, which went ahead and made a recommendation of changing the name of 10 different towns and cities in Karnataka. We were known, this was the pensioners' paradise. It used to be called as Bangalore, but it was the Ananthamurthy committee which recommended that, and then you had in 2006-2007 H.D. Kumaraswamy at that point of time was the chief minister. He accepted the report's recommendation, and 10 different towns and cities in the state underwent a name change. Bangalore became Bengaluru, Belagaum, as it was previously known, became Belagavi. So clearly Shimoga is known as Shivamogga now. So clearly that name change happened during the 50th anniversary of the formation of the state of Karnataka, and the person responsible, or perhaps one of the persons responsible for that recommendation, happened to be none other than U.R. Ananthamurthy.
It's always strange that he, being an English professor, actually made a mark in Kannada literature.
Nolan, language knows no barriers, Nolan. There are so many people. You've had people like Max Muller, who came all the way from Germany. He learned Sanskrit. So language is no barrier. And The very fact is, when it comes to U.R. Ananthamurthy, the very fact that he has written so many works completely overshadows the work that he has done as an educationist.